Good morning. Everybody knows me, I believe. If you don't, my name is Barbara Moore. With me is my good friend and colleague, and sometimes we call each other Batman and Robin because we finish each other's sentences. It's Jody.
Barb is Batman, I'm Robin, I'm just the sidekick.
No, she's not. Anyway, I have to pride PSISJS on our team. We have a team that we just gel very nicely and kind of answer each other's questions. And if anybody ever needs help, somebody on the team is right there. So I just kind of want to give a plug for that because our team really works well together. This is the end of trimester 2. March is right around the corner. In your go-to utility on your screen, there is an area for questions. During the course of this webinar, if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to put in a question. Jo will be monitoring that for me as I go through this webinar, and if she feels the need to interrupt me, she will. And she'll also answer your questions if she can. Most of the time she can. So please be aware that you can put any question in that question panel on the GoToWebinar utility. All right, I'm going to take my webcam.
You muted yourself, Barb, and you're still on camera. There we go.
Now I want to share my screen.
Yep, see the Google Doc.
Do you? Perfect,
yeah.
That's what I wanted. All right. So I'm going to go between this Google Doc, which is what I'm using for the end of term, and the actual PowerSchool interface, okay? First thing I want to let you know is this document lives actually outside of PowerSchool, but you can find it by going to the Applications drawer in the upper right corner of your screen. Right down here, the elementary end of term, when I click on that, it is the same exact document. So we linked it inside of PowerSchool for your convenience. You can also find it down here under Applications where it says Elementary End of Term. The end of the trimester for elementary schools is March 3rd. That's a Sunday. So that means the actual end of trimester for your teachers to actually give students assessments is March 1st, which is a Friday. Schools usually allow teachers 2 school days to enter grades, so that would take you to March 5th. There has to be some kind of a communication between the administration and teachers that basically says, we're storing grades Tuesday, March 5th or Wednesday, March 6th. All your grades must be completed by then. I'm going to bounce down to here really quick because that takes me to the section Readiness. This is such a great communication tool. I actually get surprised when schools are telling me they're not using it. It just takes all of that guesswork out of it. Are they done? You know, I worked in a school and I remember putting the email out, you know, we're going to store grades on whatever date it was at a certain time. And then the emails would come back and forth for the next 2 days over, I'm not done yet, and do you mind if I have, it was crazy. How do you keep track of all of that? This is such a nice feature built right within the grade book. So you put the onus back on the teachers that say, so they let you know that, hey, I'm done with my grades. Now, that's not your responsibility as an administrator. You're telling them, let me know when you're done. So I'm going to show you right now how teachers can do that. So I'm in a grade book, and I'm actually in the grade book. This is a fictitious grade book that I use in the school Holy Rosary because it's a training environment for me. So what teachers would need to do to complete the section Readiness, that then administrators can view the section Readiness report on the admin portal. So teachers have to go into every section that they teach and come down to traditional, and there's a final grade status button. If they click that and say grades are done and hit save, they basically have to do that in all of their classes. So if I go into any class, I'd have to click final grade status and click. I can also say, oops, I can also say, please review James's grades. So now I'm communicating with the administrator. What this does is perhaps you were working with James, maybe trimester 1, he didn't do so well, and there was a parent conference, and the administrator was brought into that conference, and you were working with the student themselves. Well, now they've improved, so you just want to let the administrator know, hey, check out his grades, he's done better. This now, I'm going to go and put one more in here so that I can say final grade status and done. And I'm going to do one more, because literally this is all it takes for teachers to do. Now,
Hey, Barb,
over
can I
here.
interrupt a moment?
Yes.
We have a question. Someone has a question about the PF grading. I'm not sure how to best explain. Our quick grade lookup in Parents View, PF grades for specials shows as an 85 for P and 100 for P for some other specials. How do I
Okay,
change
Mark.
that
Yeah.
to be 100? To be 100 instead of the 85?
Okay, this is a conversation that has been going on for as long as I've worked, for as long as the pass-fail came into play. When the pass-fail grade scale came into play, and I want to say, I've been with PSIS 5 years, I worked at the diocese 11, probably over 10 years ago. It was determined, and there was a committee, I believe, that was involved in this, and it may have been administrators. And I'm going to ask Richard Hart, because he has a lot of historical knowledge, because I think he might have been on that committee. I'm not sure. Anyway, it was determined that if we gave the pass a 100, is that really fair? I was in on that conversation, and it really wasn't up to me to set the grade scale for a pass-fail. It was up to a committee. So at that point, yes, you're right. The pass is an 85, and I think the fail was like a 60-something. You never give a student a 0. That's a conversation that needs to happen at an administrator's meeting. You know, many people have questioned it because your parents question it. It's an excellent question. So Laura, are you at Most Blessed? I think, I can't remember where you are, but I would bring that up. Jim shows 100. Oh, you can overwrite that. Wait a minute. You're right. I'm so sorry. Let me put this back. Thank you for asking that. I don't have a pass-fail, I don't think. Let me see if my art is a pass-fail. Ah, my art's a pass-fail. Okay, cool. We figured this out. I'm sorry. I'm glad you said that. I completely forgot. So if I put a pass in, it's going to say 85. I can simply go in there and put in a 100. The teacher has to do this, okay? So where I am, I'm in the class. I'm in the final grade column. I put in the pass, and instead of accepting the 85, I erased it. Now, if I go back, and if I put in the, let's do this again. If I put in a pass, it's going to automatically pull an 85, because guess what? That's the grade scale. See the grade scale? That's the value of a pass. Thanks for asking this question, by the way. So if I come down here, I can just say, you know, I don't want it to say an 85. I want it to say 100. I hope that answered your question. This question has been, you know what? I didn't show you any of that, did I? Can you see that grade book?
Yes.
Oh, I wasn't sure if you could see it or not. All right, because I'm jumping screens. So I guess it's just jumping to whatever screen I'm live on. That's kind of interesting. GoTo never did that before. All right. Thank you for asking the question. So I know I jumped off a topic, and we were talking about the section readiness report. So I'm going to go over here. And I'm going to go, I like to use the PSCB development reports. Your diocese paid for them. They are now fee-based, which means you get the upgrades. And they're just a phenomenal set of PowerSchool reports. So if I go into the PSCB development reports, I'm going to make this a little bigger for all of you. And if I go into the category of grading, yeah, I'm going to come down here to the section readiness. It's going to be view a list of verified gradebook sections for a selected term. So I'm going to go into that. I want to look at all sections, but I'm only interested in T2. And I'm going to hit submit. Now, this will show you who is completed and who's not completed. Now, if I just change my verify status to completed, I can see who actually finished doing this, and I actually got a note that I put in there. Another way to run this report is the system reports. And on system reports, you're going to come down here under the, I thought it was under grading section. Oh, no, it's all the way down here. It's all the way down here under, I thought it was under, oh, here it is. Under grades and grade books, you would click section readiness. Now you can filter for completed or not. So I'm going to select my reporting term, and I'm going to say, I just want to see who's complete, and I'm going to hit apply. So there's two ways you can run a report on the section readiness. If your school did not adopt this practice, I would strongly encourage that you do. It just takes the guesswork out of, are they done or are they not done? Questions? Parent-student access. The next thing we're going to talk about is this parent-student access, and I just had a ticket about this the other day, which refreshed my memory, because Rosie, you asked the question, and sure enough, it's in this document, which I don't know why I don't go to my arsenal of how-tos, because somewhere along the line I've answered these questions before. So in parent-student access, you have 3 tabs, and that is because you have a customization applied to that page. But that's where you're basically going to configure which term information is going to appear in the parent or the public portal. I'm just going to actually go there so I can show you this. Anything dealing with setting up your school, your years and terms, calendar, final grade setup, attendance, any of that is all found under Setup School. So I'm going to come down on the school setup page, and I'm going to come down under General to the Parent-Student Access. So my Parent-Student Access is currently displayed as Trimester 2 because we are actually still in Trimester 2. There's a page, there's an option up here that's available features. I turned off fees for this school because the school doesn't utilize fees. I also turned off final grades because I don't want them to see final grades. Now, if you leave final grades on and you want to turn off comments, if you don't want the parents to see them on the mobile app, and 75 to 80% of your parents use the mobile app now because they're young kids, you have to disable final grades. And I put the check mark here. On the CPP settings, we disabled this report card. This is an old report card. It's not your digital report card. It was one that came in with the PSCB customization, so make sure that's disabled because it will confuse your parents if it's on. Teacher comments are also disabled. And a couple other things are disabled. On this parent-student access, though, it'll tell you right here, if you, in order to disable the comments on the mobile app, you have to disable final grades. I just tested this the other day, and it is true. I could see the comments on final grades for Trimester 2 on one of my fake kids that I'm attached to, but when I disabled the final grades, I didn't even have to log out. I couldn't see it anymore. So if you're a school that doesn't want those comments to show because you know your teachers are worried that the parents are going to see them before the report card comes out, and then there will be a whole lot of phone calls, please make sure you disable that. But I also have to say this, and I do have a principal on here, so I feel comfortable saying this. If there shouldn't be any surprises in comments anyway, right? I mean, there shouldn't be anything like a parent hasn't heard before. So I agree, you want to hide them because you don't want all those phone calls, and you want to wait until the report cards are distributed via the parent portal. But there should not be any surprises. Parent email notification, regardless of what you do to hide that. If your parents have an email notification set up on their account, they're going to see it. They're going to get an email notification, usually on Monday mornings. So if teachers have put stuff in, they're going to, you know, and I don't hide that anymore. We can't, because we use eCollect, and that's for our new students. And we get new students year round into our schools. So I cannot turn off that email feature because it turns it off for the district. So just be aware, if your parents set up an email notification to come to them, it usually comes weekly, but I think they can set up daily, weekly, or monthly. Next thing we're going to talk about is the honor roll level. So I'm going to ask you at this point, you're going to be in school setup. So I already went to school setup to look at parent-student access. I can use my breadcrumbs to go back to school setup. Instead of clicking home and then school setup, I'm only clicking one click. I like the shortest path to get to where I need to get to. So under this, we're going to come down to honor roll, I'm sorry. Under grading, we're going to come down to honor roll setup. In the honor roll setup, okay, I have several different honor rolls. So here's my trimester 2 levels. So my first honor for trimester 2 is already set to pull from Simple Percent T2. Actually, I don't think that's what most of you use. Isn't there like a T2? Maybe that's all you use. I guess it is. I'm getting confused with another client. So just make sure your calculation method is set correct. Sometimes these get wonky for whatever reason. So just verify before you are going to be storing grades. Just make sure your honor roll setups for all your methods are pulling from the right calculation method. You don't want your honor roll to calculate on Simple Percent trimester 1 because you're in trimester 2. Okay? Honor roll calculation, I believe, is next. If you have any weather-related or maintenance-related closings, just make sure your PowerSchool calendar is reflective of that. Again, you're on the school setup page. You would choose calendar setup. And I think we had something just recently, and I don't know if you were off or not, but if you had a day, let's say February 12th, it snowed and you were off, if you don't edit this day so it doesn't have a cycle, it doesn't have a bell schedule, school is not in session, the membership value is 0, I think you have to take off these check marks too. And this has to say whatever it is, weather, snow. If you don't do that and you leave everything checked the way it is, and you're not in school, so teachers aren't taking attendance, every child will have 1 day absent because the calendar reflected that as a day in school and teachers didn't take attendance. Okay, I'm not going to save that. So make sure your PowerSchool calendar reflects what you actually did. Your report cards do have comments in them. So I always like to make sure I look at the comments before I store grades in case I see anything that, and this goes back to my days when I was a PowerSchool administrator and I had an art teacher or a Spanish teacher who was a lovely woman, but she did speak broken English and a lot of her comments were misspelled. So I would have to always, and it didn't, the grade book back then didn't have a spell check. Gradebook has a spell check now, so there shouldn't be any misspellings, but sometimes it gets through. So I would run the PSCB development reports. Again, I'm going to go to the grading category, and I want to be up here in the Power Teacher Pro category of the grading because this pulls data from the gradebook. And I'm going to come down to grades and comments. And I want to look in trimester 2 for all teachers, or particular, if you had one specific teacher, you could fine tune this report just to that teacher. So I am going to fine tune this to, and I forget her name. Oh, I don't see it. That's the student. I don't see the teacher. Here it is. I just want her. All right. So here's her comments. Now I can say they look fine to me. It's just a nice report to run. If you want to ever look at comments, you could have the comments. You could see what teachers are putting in comments as you go through the trimester. Most of the time, though, they don't do that until progress report or end of term. Dropped classes is another great report that PSCB has. So I'm going to go use my breadcrumbs. I'm going to go back to the PSCB development. When you're storing grades, if you've dropped a student from a class, and sometimes that's inevitable, it just has to be done. Student might be in a math class and really needs to be up in an algebra class. You might have to drop them in the middle of the term, move them up, or vice versa. They're in a higher reading class or math class or whatever, and they need to be brought down to a lower. Sometimes that just has to happen. We're in the business to help the students. So those moves are necessary. However, when you store grades on the permanent store screen, if you don't exclude those dropped classes, it'll store for every single class they were enrolled in. So if you go to this scheduling current year, PSCB report, there is a dropped classes report, and it'll list all the dropped classes for a specific date range, course, and teacher. So the term I want to look at is my trimester 2, and I'm going to leave the dates and everything else. I don't think I dropped anybody, so I'm probably not going to get anything. But if I did trimester 1, I know I dropped somebody. Huh, I didn't show anything on that either, did I? Maybe I didn't drop anybody. Basically, if you did drop someone, you would see the exit date would be right here and who dropped it. And that would give you the date that you would have to fine tune that permanent grade store screen, and I will show you this. Questions on those two reports though before I move on? Okay.
No questions that I see.
All right, I'm going to open up the permanent grade store document. I don't think I've changed this document in a while. Oh, maybe last year, the end of last year, but this document has been around for years. Okay, but because the process really hasn't changed. So when you're ready to store grades, I like to be in the term. So I like to come up here and make sure I'm in trimester 2. Although you don't have to, I was in the year before and stored and it was fine. On the start screen, you're going to come down under setup, and this time you're going to choose system, because your permanent store screen is on the system screen, or permanent store process is on the system screen under the grades category. You're going to click permanently store grades. You're going to use T2, that's the final grade reporting term. That must be a capital because your term T2 is a capital and your final grade reporting term is a capital. Joe, did you correct me the other day when we talked about this? Is that still an issue if you put a lowercase?
Yes, it is still an issue.
Okay, so if you put a lowercase t in there, it's not going to store, you're going to get an error. So you have to make sure you define this reporting term with the capital T.
Oh, no, it won't give you an error. It'll store the grade with the lowercase, but it won't show on your report cards. It won't show on the parent portal. It'll let you do it.
Oh, I forgot. That's changed then. Back in the day, it wouldn't store for you.
Oh, no, now it'll let you store.
Oh, great. So moral to that story is make sure the term has a capital. You're then going to, if you dropped a student, let's say you dropped a student on February 1st. Let's say if you dropped a student on February 1st, you would say exclude enrollment records, that's course enrollment records, where the student dropped the class before and you would choose February 2nd because February 1st is when you drop them, okay? If you didn't drop anybody, let's get rid of this. If you didn't drop anybody, I would choose the last one that says include only enrollment records that are currently active and were active on this date. I always use like a day before the end of the term, but because we're not there yet, I'm going to choose today because today is the 22nd. I did not select any students to store. If you have to restore for maybe 3 students, you can grab them and only store for them. And this right here would say the amount of students that you selected before you went to the permanent grade store screen. You can also store for a specific section. Let's say your math teacher, after grades are stored, come to you and said, oh, I forgot to put in an assessment. I'll put it in now. Can you restore my math? You can put in the course and section, CO8 dot, whatever the section number is. You can also store by grade level and tracks, but we hardly ever use that. Classes by term length. This is a little confusing for people. The Diocese of Wilmington usually, now some of this may have changed.
Barb,
Yes.
we have a question. What date can I use to hide comments from parents?
What date can you use?
Yeah, Teresa, what date you use in this is just to store the grades. To hide the comments from parents is not part of this. That's a function of
Parent-student access. And
yeah,
I just went through that. I'll go back to that in a minute, okay? I'll go back to that as soon as I'm done with this. All right. So I'm going to include only enrollment records that are currently active and that were active on this date. Again, I have not selected students. I don't have a specific course or question. I'm not storing by grade level. Storing courses, most elementary schools have a schedule that all courses are year-long classes. IHM and maybe St. Mary Mag may be different. I'm not really sure, but if you are, you might want to just put something in the question pane about that. Most of you do not have courses that are built for trimesters because our report card before the digital would not support that. So you, on this classes by term length, you are going to store with no credit. That's all your classes. And this is what I mean by this. If you go to teacher schedules, and if I look at my teacher's classes on this page, the term is 23-24. If you look down here, they're all 23-24. All of my classes. That's what I mean. We seldom have a trimester 1 or trimester 2 because of the way our report cards were built. So if you, all of you pretty much have your classes scheduled for year-long classes. So right here, you would say for the year-long classes, store with no credit. We don't award credit at the elementary level. You're not storing for another term that's not in progress, so you don't have to worry about this little piece here. Store grades that were enrolled at, you want to say this school only. We don't do anything here with awarding credit or variable credit or grade suppression or any of that. That's usually secondary schools, and we're going to hit submit. And at that point in time, see how quickly it went because I really had no grades to insert, but some of my grades were updated. Now, how can I tell if grades were stored? So I think these are these 8th graders? Yeah, if I go to one of my 8th graders, before I look at the report card, I want to come down under academics and I want to look at historical grades. This tells me the grades that were stored. Now, again, this is a fictitious grade book, so I didn't put some grades in for some of these kids. Music, I just didn't put grades in. I didn't really have time to do it, but I thought just a few would be okay. So that's your grade book. That's stored grades. If you want to go back to quick lookup and say, All right, so did he get a grade in trimester 2 for written expression? No. Or film history or music. So now you know they didn't store because they're not in the grade book. If they're here in the grade book on this quick lookup screen and they didn't store, there's another problem and you need to put in a help desk ticket, okay? Your sections could be set up not to include in stored grades. The course could. There's a lot of little things that we could look at, but if it's not on quick lookup, then and it's not on the stored grades, it's not in quick lookup, it's not going to be stored. There's nothing in the grade book. All right, question, any other questions on the permanent grade store process? Oh, comments come in with a stored grade, and I don't know which ones had comments here. I don't know, let's see, I think I have to find a student with a C. Let me just go through this real quick. When we look at historical grades. Okay, so comments come in with a stored grade. So if I click on that stored grade, here's the comment right here. So if the teacher changes the comment in the grade book and tells you I changed the comment, you got to store again. Do not go in here and change this. It's not a good practice. Store the specific section. Okay. Power Teacher Pro can accommodate 2,074 character counts in a comment, but your report card has to support that. The allotted character count per your report cards for grade 3 to 8, you have 183 characters. You've seen that grade 3 to 8. It's kind of a crowded report card. There's not much real estate left on that report card, and I'm hoping someday that's addressed. But the comments are very, very small. The biggest comment is in your pre-K 3 and pre-K 4, and that should be that way because most of their report card are summative. So that comment means a lot to those pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 parents. Kindergarten has 996 characters, and grade 1 to 2 has up to 720 characters. If there is a grade change, your practice is, if there's a decision that was made to change a grade, I guess between a conversation with the teacher, maybe the parent and the administrator, the teacher makes the change in the grade book. Teachers can change a grade in their grade book, and I will show you in 1 minute. Now are you seeing my grade book, Joe? I don't know if it's moving back and forth.
No, I'm seeing the Google Doc.
Okay, great. So if teachers want to change a grade, let's say there was whatever, for whatever reason, they go in here and they basically can say, this is a B, and make the percentage match, I think what the B is, which is 80. Hold on. Now, when I hit save, in the grade book, there's a little triangle in the upper left-hand corner. That's an indication that that grade was overwritten. So Dr. Liu said this so eloquently, and I use this quote all the time. Grade books can calculate grades, but the teacher in the classroom determines the grades. And I think that's so appropriate. So you're with these students every day. If the grade book calculated that grade to a 70-some, but you know that student really probably deserves an 80, that's your prerogative. Okay, let's come back here now. No questions on permanently storing grades or grade changes. All right. We're going to move on to digital report cards, which trimester 1, we know it was a little bit of a rocky road for you, as it was for us, but the first trimester always is. Once we get that under our belt, it usually works from there. I did have a ticket early on, I think about 2 weeks ago, from one of your schools that said pre-K 3 wasn't working. And she was right, it was not working. We got that fixed, so I did answer that ticket. So I went through all these report cards, and they all seem to be working for me in Holy Rosary. So I'm assuming they're going to work for you. The digital report card, fine. Yes?
Or we have a question. On the digital report card, is the character count for comments different than it was on the printed report cards?
No, we gave those counts to our coder. they will hold true. I mean, those report cards hold a lot of, no, they should be okay. After trimester 1, we worked through that. I gave him those counts. All right. Digital report card has a setup with it. You can't just have something in PowerSchool that doesn't have a setup to say, what do you want? So it's before parents and administrators can view it, you need to go to that report card setup page and set it up for the term that you're currently in. Now this screenshot shows that I'm in trimester 1. You're basically going to change that to trimester 2. So I'm going to take you in there right now. And from the start page again, you're going to come under setup and go to school. And I'm going to wait for that to load. It always takes a minute. And I'm going to come down under grading, and I'm going to go to report card setup. My report card setup right now is set to pull from T2 for the admin display, for the teacher display, not the guardian yet, because I'm not done going through my report card process. The comment store code is coming from T2, and I want the data source to be stored grades. I have no idea what this school announcement is. I've tried to play with it, but it never worked for me. I think it works in some school districts, but apparently not ours. You don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to hit submit. Now that I have that set up, I've stored grades, I'm going to go to one of my 8th graders, and I'm going to come over here. Now we were looking at historical grades. You remember, PowerSchool remembers the last PowerSchool page you were on. We're going to come down under historical grades, and we're going to go to the report card. Now there's not going to be much on here. I don't even know if I put any comments in here. I did not. And I only put a couple grades in here. So I thought I put comments in somebody. Now, hold on, I did. Oh, not him. It was a student that had a C, I think. I think I put a comment in there. There it is. So see that math, the comment is very small. What I noticed in trimester 2 is some of the comments, when they wrapped, it made the columns uneven. And I'm not sure if that's going to be the same this time or not, but I think St. John's, I think it was Matt that brought that to my attention. It did look kind of wonky. And I think we might just have to deal with that for now, but because I don't know that that can even be fixed. Jen, if you're on here, you might address that. She might not be on.
Jen, who?
I thought she was. Okay. All right. In any case, if the comments don't fit, you know, just put in a help desk ticket, let us know, and we'll see what we can do for you on that. Printing the digital report cards. This has always been the major thing. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, Mozilla gives you the least issues on pagination. It just always has. And we've been doing digital report cards with other clients for like 3 or 4 years now. And we found early on, Mozilla just addressed that whole pagination without a lot of issues. But I've gotten it to work in Chrome. So I'm going to go to System Reports. I have these students selected already. And I'm going to come down under, I think it's under grades and grade books, and I'm going to do report card mass print. And I want to pick the 6 students that I had selected. And the report card I want is the grade 3 to 8, because this report card is, for these kids that I'm running it for are in 6th graders. Now you see we have a high school report card. And I think St. Peter's and Paul and Easton are using that. Mary, you can tell me if I'm right or not. All right, I'm going to generate the report. It's going to appear on my screen, and then I'm going to use the Chrome menu to choose the print selection. So this may take a few minutes. There we go. Now my resolution is set kind of high so you can see it. So I can actually
answer. Barb, it says yes, we use the high school report card for Mary.
Oh, thanks, Mary. I couldn't remember. Isn't that awful? But I do remember when you gave it to me thinking, if we go digital, we should just make one for you guys too. All right, in the upper right corner, there are 3 vertical dots. This is the Google Chrome menu. And if I choose this, I can come down and say, I want to print these report cards. And it's going to generate, now I want to print them to a PDF, okay? This also is a very slow and tedious process. So I want to go to a PDF and I'm waiting for them. Well, that doesn't really look that great to me. So I'm going to go to more settings and I'm going to bring my, I'm going to bring this down to, I think it was like 90 maybe. For me, it was 90. This is going to be different on everybody's computer, mostly. So for me, this looks okay. If I paginate through, I might come down a little bit more. Now, these report cards, I'm going to say right off the bat, they're not meant to be printed, but I know some of you print them, but they really were not created to be printed. So you're going to have an issue with the top margin. You can see the top margins right there. I know for a fact, HP printers, they have a 1/4 inch unprintable margin around the edge of the paper. That's just built into an HP printer. So you're going to have an issue with that unless you take this way down. And it still comes at the top, so that's really not going to help you that much. You save them, so I can still come back up to that 90, I think. But mine paginated pretty well. And it depends on what's in there, you know what I mean? So some kids aren't enrolled in anything, like this student right here. Again, this is fake data. This student right here is, I think Jen put in, and just, you know, they're only enrolled in film history. So there was no film history grades. So that's how you print in Google Chrome. You can also, if you're going to print, you can print to a printer. Now your settings could all be wonky and change here also. And you could go to your margins and you could do custom and you could say, you know, I don't like the top margin. I want that top margin brought down some. I think you can fix that somehow. I'm just not sure where. Yeah, I'm not really sure where, but you can go and change them if you want. I just leave it on default. Any questions on this?
I don't see any questions.
All right. So these are not meant to be printed, but they are meant to be stored electronically. So printing them to a PDF is the kind of like a requirement, because I can't tell you how many tickets that we get from other clients that say, I need a 21-22 report card for a student that graduated, you know, I don't know, whenever. And it is a little easier with the digital report card, but you're not going to get the current grade, that level that they were in. So it's kind of difficult. All right, I'm going to get back here.
Question. Shouldn't we leave the T1 grades viewable also?
Oh, yeah, you can. I'm sorry. And I thought about that when I was on there. Yeah, it's probably a good idea because your parents are going to say, I don't remember that. Yes, you can leave T1 on there.
Okay, got another question. If we're unable to print them, how do we send them to the high schools?
So you can send them via Bright Arrow. If you put the high school, you can create a list in Bright Arrow of high school recipients.
And they also want to keep a hard copy for the students' permanent folders.
Well, how many people can't print these? I don't know. I've walked through printing this with most people and it's worked. And let me give you some troubleshooting. If it doesn't print from your computer on your printer, try it at home. Try it on a different browser. Try it with a different computer and printer. Trust me, I've gotten it to work in Google Chrome. I've gotten it to work in Safari on my Mac. I've gotten it to work in Mozilla Firefox, and I've done it at a couple different locations. I've done it at my house. I think I did it at Christ the Teacher last year. I was sitting at, I think might have been at Rosie's desk. I forget where I was, but I printed a report card from there. And then I forget where else I was. So I've gotten it to work. So there are things that you can try if you really can't get them printed. And if you still can't get them printed, put in a help desk. We'll help you.
Okay, can print but cuts off the student's name at the top. then when in the printing, before you save them, you need to adjust the size, wouldn't that?
Well, no, when I adjusted the size right then, I saw that it didn't adjust the top, the very top, because, and that's on the grade 3 to 8 report card, I'm thinking more than anything, because it's such, there's no room on that report card, so it's hard to, I see what you're saying. Is anybody else having an issue with that?
Mary Elizabeth said Mozilla doesn't cut off the names.
Ah, thank you. See, I swear, Mozilla just handles that so nicely. So Karen, is this Karen that's asking this? Okay, well, can try that, Karen. Maybe go back and try your trimester 1 report cards and see if it works. Or wait until trimester 2.
Yep, everybody's saying use Mozilla. Got
Okay.
a question. Can you clarify the T1 question that you just answered?
Okay, so on your report card setup, which is again, under setup, go to school. And I'm going to wait till that loads and then come down under grading and go to report card setup. If you want your parents also to see the trimester 1, I'm going to set it up like that. Oh, did I put it on for parents too? I might have. Doesn't matter. It's all me. I'm the parent to everybody in this building. All right, so I'm going to pick a student and I'm going to go to the report card. Now I can see trimester 1 and trimester 2 grades. That's probably better because I think your parents will always want to see, well, how did they do in trimester 1? I forgot. Good question. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. So now we're going to talk about calculating honor roll. This is only done when you are completely done troubleshooting your report cards and they're ready to go to print. You want to calculate your honor roll. This process does not overwrite itself. What calculating honor roll does, it's going to calculate based on your honor roll setup on your calculation method. So if students warrant an honor roll level, it's going to pull that and actually you can run a report and see how they did. Calculate honor roll if you find that for some reason a grade was off and the teacher needed to make a change and that child would have made the honor roll. You have to put in a help desk ticket and we'll delete that honor roll calculation for you so that you can recalculate. And that's done on the back end. So I believe, I don't know that I did calculate or not. I'm only going to calculate honor roll on these 8 kids because I think my other kids are too young on this. So that is another system operation. So under setup, you'll choose system. And you're going to come down under grades and you're going to choose calculate honor roll. And I'm going to choose it for the 6 students that I selected. The term is going to be trimester 2 and the honor roll method is trimester 2 HRS honors. So now it's going to calculate my honor roll. I again like to use the PSCB honor roll report because I just think it's quicker. So I go to PSCB, I choose grading. And this time I'm going to come under the stored grades category and I'm going to choose the honor roll report. And it's for this year for trimester 2. Now, if the term doesn't come up here, it's because you didn't calculate. And I'm going to look at all methods, all levels, all students. So I have 2 students that made honor roll in the 8th grade, and it also will pull the GPA for trimester 2.
Okay, got a question. How do we calculate the GPA? We use this for NJHS.
What's NJHS? It's an honor society, and
Yeah, New Jersey Honor Society.
but that's not in New Jersey. That's national.
National Junior Honor Society. Sorry, didn't know mine.
She's a New Jersey smart person. That's why she answered like that.
Sorry.
How do you calculate that? That's a good question. I think you have to pull out your stored grades. You know what? It's a simple percent. Mary Elizabeth, have you done this before? You want to unmute yourself? I can unmute you.
You got it?
Yes, Barb, you actually worked with us to use the simple percent.
I think you have to pull your stored grades out though.
Well, maybe our difference is that we did it we do it for the year. So at the end of the school year, we're doing it in June because
Okay.
then they're eligible for the next school year.
Well, Karen, put in a help desk ticket if you need this for trimester 2, and we'll help you with that. I've done it for high schools, but high schools are much more sophisticated in their gradings because some courses are only
helped us do it,
per
Barb.
semester.
You were
Yeah.
very nice and helped us do it.
Pardon me?
You were very nice and helped me to do it a year
Okay.
ago.
Thank you. All right. So I'll help you, Karen. Just put in help desk ticket. Okay. All right, and we showed you how to calculate honor roll and run the honor roll report. Again, if there's an issue with that, put in an help desk ticket. We'll delete the honor roll calculation and you can calculate again. Here's something like if you are calculating honor roll for a specific group of students, so like I selected the 6th grade, but here's a search that I put in here. So if you were only searching for grade level that was greater than 3, that's how you would search for it. You would say grade level is greater than 3. If you're calculating for honor roll for just 4 and 7, you would say grade level is greater than 4, semicolon, grade level is greater than or is less than 8. You can do a duplicate search by using that semicolon, no space between the 2 search parameters. This is a video. I'm not going to play it for you because you can play it yourself, but this video will show you how to run the PSCB custom honor roll report I just showed you. Once report cards are distributed, honor rolls are calculated and distributed, you now have to get your Power School ready for trimester 3. So you have to visit 3 places. Parent-student access, you have to enable specific settings that were disabled. Quick lookup preferences to specify where data is pulled from each term, and your current grade display to enable the term that parents and students should be able to view. I always forget that last one, and it gets me every time. I don't know why, but I always forget. So let's go look at this.
And the current grade display dictates what gets emailed out to parents if they are set up to have Power School emails. So if you leave it on T1, it'll never email out T2's information.
Who have notifications turned on. Thank you, Joe. Good point.
Got it.
We just had that ticket. All right. So from the school setup again, I'm going to go home because I was in reports. And I'm going to come down under setup again, and I'm going to go to, oh, that's slow, isn't it? And I'm going to go to school, and I'm going to come down to under general, and I'm going to go to parent-student access. And in parent-student access, I'm going to change my term to trimester 3, because now I'm going to be in trimester 3. And you would hit submit, and then I'm going to come over to the available features. On the available features, I turned off final grades because I didn't want my comments to show. So now I'm going to put final grades back on, and I'm going to put comments back on and hit submit. And then I'm going to come over to the CPP settings, and was there anything there that I needed to turn off? Teacher comments, and that's it. And I'm going to hit submit. Now that's done. You're going to go back to school setup. The next thing you're going to look at is your quick lookup. Your quick lookup is under general also, and it's right here. You have to change where data is being pulled from on your quick lookup screen. When you start the year, it's all coming from the grade book, but now you've moved through a couple terms. Trimester 1 is pulling from stored grade. We're going to put trimester 2 to stored grade now because trimester 2 is over. In March, we're going to do this after March 1st or 2nd. So if you don't do this, and this was one of the first tickets I had when I took the job at the diocese, and I remember sitting in a classroom in a school thinking, I have no idea what this woman did. I had to call Lisa Cahill. I was a mess. Apparently, their quick lookup was not set to historical grades. The teacher inadvertently went into the term that just ended and changed a grade or added an assignment, which changed the grades for all the kids. Parents were calling and saying, the report card says this, but we got the quick lookup that says completely different. So make sure your or you have made this setting in PowerSchool when your term is officially over, okay? Make sure when you're storing grades at the end of that March 1st, you change this to Q2, to historical grades. You don't want it pulling from gradebook anymore. And the last but not least setting is the one that I always forget. Again, that is under general. Is it under general? No, it's under grading. It's your custom grade display. This grade display is set to trimester 2. If I left it at trimester 2 and I was a parent in Holy Rosary and I signed up for email notifications on grades and attendance and whatever, it would pull everything from trimester 2 instead of trimester 3. So make sure this also is changed to trimester 3, and then you hit submit. So those 3 options have to be done. Questions on any of that before I go into report card troubleshooting tips? And then I have one more thing at the end that I need all of you to hear.
I don't see any questions.
All right. That's your report card does not pull a traditional grade. It's blank. That's because you didn't exclude one of the courses. So if you go into a stored or a historical grade and you see a grade and a dash underneath it.
Wait a minute. Mary Elizabeth said, yes, I do. She has a question. Let me unmute you.
Unmute her, please. Thank you.
All right, Mary Elizabeth.
So Barb, that just with the last point that you made about current grade display and what you said and what Joe said before about if we change it to T3 for current grade display, then that's what gets emailed out to parents. So if I change that to T3 now, then nothing's going to get emailed out to them while we're working on grades. Like, is that a workaround in terms
you know what?
of email notification?
I'm going to test that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay. And then I had one more question.
Sure.
My other question is, so I have changed over to the new interface.
I'm talking about that at the end.
Ours that Jen presented to the principals at the last principals meeting. And I just wonder if there is a cheat sheet for finding
I'm going
it.
to address that at the very end of this, okay? Because I don't know where administrators are on that with notifying anybody.
Sure. And here's the bottom line, Barb, about it when you address it is that I can find it. It's just a time issue.
Oh, yeah, I know. And yes, there is a cheat
I
sheet.
find everything I need. It just takes me a little longer.
Yeah.
So that's all the reason I'm asking.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have that at the very end of this. I'm going to address it because I wasn't at that meeting. Jen did the presentation and I talked to her this morning and just wanted to know where she left it. And she said administrators know how to do it. And they were told to tell their PowerSchool administrators. And, you know, she said, I would just let people know what it looks like. And I'm going to provide a presentation that I gave in Virginia on the same thing, the same day she was giving one to the administrators up here. So, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, though. I don't want to jump ahead. But, okay.
Yeah, no worries.
Sure. All right. So if every student has one day absent in the term on your report card, that's a calendar issue. Go back and look at your calendar. Either a day is not set up correctly, or you missed a check mark, or you missed something. But if every student in your school is absent one day, that's a calendar issue. Not sure how grade is being calculated. You can go to quick lookup, click on the term grade, and below that it will show you whether it's category weighting, as this is down here, or total points. Standard grades are not appearing on the report card. Select the student, go to quick lookup, click on the standards grades. If it's not on that page in the term, it's not in the grade book. Standards grades do not get stored. They come right to the grade from the grade book into the standards grades table, which gets pulled to your digital report cards. So if you're not seeing it on quick lookup, look at the teacher's grade book. It's not in there, or it's in the wrong term. Okay, any questions at all on what I covered? Because if there aren't any, I'm going to move very quickly into what's coming in May. Not necessarily to you in May, but PowerSchool is coming out with a version in May that is changing what your enhanced user interface is going to look like. It's only changing the interface, but it is a big change. But once you see it, and I can ask Mary Elizabeth, I really like it because there's so many pluses for it. Yes, you forget where things are, but I do have
But just learning where they are. It is,
Pardon
I
me?
do. It is just learning where they are.
Yep,
Just like the last one, you just have to know where they are.
right. All right, let's see, is there any questions to that anymore? The date of when you shut down? So what do you mean shut down, Teresa? Teresa, your end of your term is Friday, March 1st, okay? Your teachers, you can leave everything as it is until your report cards are done, which will be probably the next week, the 5th or 6th. But you could turn everything to trimester 3 because, teachers probably that next week may be putting in assessments. So it's actually March 1st is the end of the term. We run it out to Sunday. You give your teachers 2 days, that's March 5th, to finish entering information. You can actually change all those settings to trimester 3 after March 1st. And I will let you all know in my follow-up email with the idea of changing your current grade display to T3 if it works or not. Actually, I can actually do that right now. Hold on, I'm going to log into my parent portal and I'll have that answer for you if you don't mind giving me 1 minute. So I already changed my current grade display over here, right? Let's see. Current grade display is trimester 3. Perfect. All right, let me go into my parent account. Okay. Okay, let me see if I can show you. Who was the kid that I had a comment on? All right, let me see. So this is my parent account, all right? You can tell that because up here it says guardian in the URL. I'm in a parent account. None of these kids are real kids. I think there was a student with a C. No, I forget which one it was. Maybe it was James, might be James. There it is. And I forget where the comment was, but if I go to right down here, isn't there teacher comments? Oh, look, there you go. It doesn't show any comments because it's in, wait a minute though, can they change it? If they change it to T2, they can see it. So
Got
that
a
doesn't.
question on the new UI, Barb?
Yeah.
Can I have a reminder how to change my view over to the new view?
I'm going to address that in a minute. Right now, Mary Elizabeth asked if she turned her current grade display. The problem is if you go to teacher comments here, the parents can change to any term to see comments. So that's not going to work. Okay. Thank you. All right. Power School is coming out with the next version, 24.5 means.
Barb, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Barb, but that it could impact email notifications.
It could impact that, but they're going to be able to see the comments on that under teacher comments. I don't think there's a way to hide that. But I'll play with it and let you know because now, that's one of the things that wakes me up in the middle of the night. Oh, I should have tried this,
Understood. Thank you.
All right. Power School is coming out with a new user interface, and I'm going to kind of just give you a little sneak peek right now. So let me go to district. I'll just show you how I have to change it. Your administrators were given a presentation on this at the January administrators meeting, and I think they left it where it was left was that you were going to play with it, administrators were going to play with it, and they were going to let their Power School administrators know that it was coming with the next major update in PowerSchool, which is usually we apply sometime in July. So I am going to go find my account, and this is the account I use. And if I go to my security settings on this account, and you may not be able to do this yourself, and go to admin access and roles, I want to come down to Holy Rosary because that's the only school I want to turn it on for. I would come right over here to the pencil icon, and there is a role that I'm going to apply that's called the Enable User Interface. Now, all these other roles have to be turned on because there's a whole thing about this role. It's tied to a security group that does absolutely nothing but turn the user interface on. So I'm going to turn that on, and I'm going to hit submit. And I only turned it on for Holy Rosary. I'm the user that's in here. I'm going to come over here to district, and I'm going to come back up to went to the wrong school. I put it on for that school too, though. Let me change this and go back to Holy Rosary so I can work with kids. So your user interface, this is the way it's going to look. What they've done is they've taken the interface, and instead of using screens that go to screens that go to screens, they basically have like pull-out drawers, okay? So you can see there's different information you can find. It's all right there. I want to show you this first. This was a presentation that I'm going to give this to all of you. It's linked down here that basically talks about it. The new organization is on the left menu. There's a favorites. So if you go to a page all the time, you can favorite it, and it's just going to appear on in your favorites. And then you can pin those favorites to the right side of your screen, which is really helpful. There is a search bar that you can search for not only students, but you can search for pages. You're going to click instead of scrolling all the time, because what PowerSchool found out was this was really an ancient interface that they were using, and they were trying to make it really appear more like the parent portal and the teacher portal, where there's slide out drawers instead of going from screen to screen to screen to screen. It's organized based on use. The drawers will continue to expand, especially if there's a right arrow. Your student pages, let's see if I can make this a little bigger. I don't think I can. Your student pages, there's a people, so it's student, staff, and contacts. Your attendance and health has everything for attendance and health. It's broken down into school enrollment and courses and programs. Data and reporting is really basically just that. All your reports are going to be in there. School management. These are aligned with the items that you would see on Setup School. Same thing with system management. These items are aligned with the same items you would see on System or Setup System. Your student pages all look the same. It's just how you get there. It's different. Nothing in the actual database has changed. It's just the navigation. But they did add some things underneath the student name. It's a really nice, they have a really nice feature in finding students now and grabbing a group of students. There's actually a pop-up that will come if you're looking for other students, but it maintains the same search that you started with. Staff pages are the same, and I did put that staff personnel in there. All the customizations have to be created again using custom links, and we are in the process of doing that. Your contacts, it's just basically going to people in contacts. You're going to be able to find them right there. Your group functions. Now, some changes are going to be seen here. So your list students is now called custom list students. So the names of them had to change, because before, where you would pick a list student, there was a description. There's not going to be a description anymore. So they had to change some of the names so you understood what that was. Favorites. Favorites are really nice. You can star any page and make it a favorite. And when you make it a favorite, you have to put it into a category, and then you can use that favorite at the top. The search bar is found on every page at the very top that you can search for almost anything. This cheat sheet, which is part of this, will show you any page. So let's say I was looking for historical grades. Historical grades, there we go. I got it right here. Historical grades. So that's the name, the location where it used to be, setup, system grades, export historical grades. Export historical grades is now school management, academics, grades, export. This cheat sheet will help you. What I usually do when I'm in Holy Rosary, if I can't find something, I go into another school. If you have access to the graduated student school, the only thing you might not be able to see in the graduated student school is the staff, because there's no staff in there. But if you want to change that user interface for yourself in that school, or maybe the enrollment school, you might still have access to that. It might be a way to learn this. You can't teach it. I did a presentation, Jen did a presentation, but basically it's what I'm doing with you now. You can't teach this to anybody. You just have to start using it. I like a lot of the features, and PowerSchool liked it a lot to make it permanent. You can't move back from it in 24/5.
Okay, got a question. How do we get access to the graduated student school?
Put in a help desk ticket and we'll give that to you. Most PowerSchool administrators should have that, because that's where you can find all the students that graduated from your school. Anybody that's an 8, a security group 8, which is most of you on this call, or a 10, which are principals, should have access to that school. Other questions?
I don't see any.
It actually, once you start really working in it, you will like it. It's change, I know. We're not moving until the summer sometime, usually after we run end of year. And when we do, if we upgrade to that, and a lot of the upgrades we have to take because of security features that are put in. Any other questions? No? We're good? Could I look at Good Shepherd? I've tried to turn on the new interface and it doesn't seem to change. For you? All right. I'll do that for you, okay, Sinead? So if I look at, I'll do it live for you right now. And if I find this user, sure. And if I go to security settings, do you want it on for your school for Good Shepherd, or do you want it on for another school? Oh, she has enrollment too. Oh, the enable UI is on. It doesn't work? Oh, ours is good? Okay, great. But basically, all you're going to do is go in here and you're going to add this enable EUI group. Just need to make sure that any other role, I mean, like what I did, if you have a group that like district administrator with no group defined, remember there is a security group that's tied to this enable EUI. That security group is group number 22. It doesn't do anything, nothing at all. Oh, thanks, Mary. Mary had to log out and log back in. If you just force yourself to use it, that's what I'm doing. I'm just forcing myself to use it. I'm finding things rather quickly. And I have to tell you what I like the most about it. I work in, let me get back to Holy Rosary. I work in object reports. Is it object reports that I couldn't find? But if I come up here, and if I go to my favorites, see how they come on the right side? If I want to look at the registration page, like for a student, let me change that. If I want to go to any one of these object reports, it takes me right to the object reports page. Going to the object reports would be data and reporting, I think. And then I would have to find the report. Actually, it wouldn't be under data, I think it's under system. So I immediately made that a favorite. Any other questions? So let's say this bright arrow page, if I go to bright arrow home and I wanted to make that I wanted to add that, I would add that, and then I would say, what category? I would make a bright arrow category and add the page. All right, then if I could go back home, and if I do my favorites again, then I see my bright arrow home has just been added. It's really very nice. It's quick. It's really cut down the time that you navigate through the system. Okay. Good. Okay, well, thank you very much for attending today. As usual, I will provide you a video of this. And if you have any questions at all through the end of the term, put in a help desk ticket. There's 5 or 6 of us that can answer your questions. Thanks again, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Barb.
Thanks to
Thanks,
principals
Joe.
who always come on because it helps me when I have to answer questions.